Yeah, I can hear you, but it does jump a little bit. We'll see how it goes if you want to stay off camera or not. So, hi, everybody. Welcome to our small audience in the Mesa Center and to everybody on Zoom. We are doing this alumni transfer panel today. And as I explained, we're going to record it for those who can't join us, but just really thankful for you all. I know some of you are about to get into finals maybe, and some are already done for the quarter. Daniel, who's graduated, is completely done. So we'll just jump in if that's okay. And since there are a lot of you, I thought we could at least introduce everybody. And then as we go through the questions, we'll see who wants to answer what question. We don't have to have everybody answer every question. So how about you share your name, your pronouns, if you want, your major, and where you go to school. And just as a short icebreaker, maybe your favorite teacher that you had when you were at Foothill, if you can remember back then. Okay, so I'll just call you out as you show up in my Zoom room, and well, hopefully the sound works okay. So Glycella, you want to go first?
Yeah, so I hope you can hear me fine. My name is Glycel Brady. I'm currently a third-year transfer at UC Davis, majoring in psychology, minoring in human development. I'm also a pre-PA. My favorite teacher while I was at Foothill would have to be Professor Kyle Taylor. He was my favorite chemistry teacher. So if you're ever needing to take chemistry still, I would recommend taking him. He's great. He's awesome.
Well, thanks, Glycel. Juan, you want to go next?
Yes, of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Juan Renmelo. I go by he, him. I am at Santa Clara University studying neuroscience, and my favorite professor at Foothill was also Kyle Taylor.
Cool. Tanaz, you're up.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Sanaz. My pronouns are she, her. I'm currently at UC Berkeley studying integrative biology, and my favorite teacher, I want to say someone other than Kyle Taylor, so I'll say Ron Painter.
And was that for organic chemistry?
Yes, organic chemistry.
Okay, great. Hey, Jaden, welcome. If you want to go next.
Hi, I'm Gene Ramirez. I go by he, him. I'm currently a computer science, computer game design student. And one of my favorite professors back in Foothill was, I believe, Jeff Anderson, calculus. He really helped me get into the mindset of being a college student and note-taking and how to primarily focus to achieve not only the best grades possible, but to ensure the learning experience is worth it by ensuring you keep focusing on the knowledge of what's being presented rather than the grade itself.
Oh, and Jaden, I don't think you said where you are for university right now. Did you?
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm in UC Santa Cruz at the moment.
Great. Lonnie, you're next.
Hi, I'm Lonnie Halstead-Relas. I'm a fourth year studying computer science at UC Santa Cruz. I use she, her pronouns, and my favorite teacher was Patrick Morris. I took him for discrete math and statistics, and I'm still in awe of how he's able to take such complex concepts and make them easily understandable and digestible.
Cool, thanks, Lonnie. Hi, Daisy, you're next.
Hi everyone, my name is Daisy. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a pre-med student majoring in biological sciences. I'm currently at SJSU, and my favorite professor would be, I really enjoyed Rosa Nguyen's class. I still keep up with her. We just had dinner a month or two ago. She just was always there to support her class, and I really enjoy just getting to know her a little bit more. But yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Daisy. Daniel.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Daniel Ramos Mejia. I just graduated from San Jose State in biomedical engineering, and my pronouns are he, him. And my favorite teacher or professor, I think everyone knows it's Jeff Anderson. I've been we've built a relationship since I took his class back in spring of 2022 in linear algebra, and it's been a constant mentorship, friendship for the past 3 years. So he's been really a big key in all of my success in the past couple years now in my academic career.
Cool, thank you. And so let's start with the first question, or first two questions kind of together. So why did you pick the transfer school that you're at when you were going through that process? And what's one or two things you really like about where you go, and one or two things that you really don't like about where you're at? So we'll just take a couple responses on that. Anybody want to start off? Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, so I guess for me, the reason why I chose SJSU, because I was accepted into Cal Poly, SLO, Long Beach, and SJSU. And I guess one of the main reasons why I chose SJSU was that it was in the Bay and it was near home. And also, career-wise, I felt that SJSU was in the heart of Silicon Valley. So I thought that I'd be able to grow my network there, which I did. And just this year, they started getting recognition nationally and being a top public university. So I think I ended up making the right choice. But one thing I would say I don't like about SJSU would be the biomedical engineering department itself, only because it's a pretty new program there. I would say it's a couple years. It's been a couple years on its own. It was originally combined with chemical engineering, and then it branched off. But the funding is really bad when it comes to research. For one of my biomedical engineering classes, specifically for a lab portion, we had about 40 students who were sharing one graduated cylinder and one box of Kim wipes. So if anyone has ever done research, it's pretty insane, especially since I did SLI with Foothill summer 2022. My first research experience was at Stanford, so I kind of assumed and was a bit naive that everywhere was going to be like that, and then it was kind of like a shock when I went to SJSU.
Thanks, Daniel. That's sad that you had to share one graduated cylinder. Jeez. Who else would like to share why you chose where you are, and one or two things you really like and one or two things you really don't like?
I can go.
Go ahead.
I chose Davis because they had a really good informational panel and regarding health professions. They had a lot of information about different careers in the health field. And they set you up for success. And even as alumni, you can still access those resources and get help from the counselors when you're not a student anymore. That's one of the reasons why I chose it. I also chose it because I wanted somewhere that's close but not too far. And since I brought my car with me, I'm able to come back home whenever I want or visit friends or family. So I'm not always in Davis. I would say one thing I don't like about Davis is that there is barely any, it's a very competitive outside space in terms of opportunities. You don't get a lot of chances to actually have like interviews. It is a first come type basis. So if you're first, you have a higher chance. Anything after that, you might have no chance of getting any opportunities. And so ensuring that you're properly organized and ready for any deadlines is really important, and keeping up with that in order to get the opportunity that you want. Besides that, I really like Davis.
Thanks, Clara. Juan, what about you?
Yeah,
And maybe
so
you can reiterate where you are, just because more people walked in.
I'm at Santa Clara University. So when I was transferring or, submitting all the applications and everything, I honestly just threw my name into the pool for Santa Clara. I didn't really expect much of it. I just, gave myself a chance. And when it came to actually deciding on a college, I, had multiple acceptances and multiple scholarship offers. So it was really for me, it was a matter of, who's gonna offer the most money. And so ultimately I decided on Santa Clara, and I don't regret that decision. But going in, I completely knew nothing about the school. I didn't know what they had, what they, offered, and what they provided to students. And so I went in sort of, not really knowing how it was going to be like. But, overall, during my time here, I've discovered many things and many resources. And I truly believe that Santa Clara University is sort of like an upgrade. I wouldn't say upgrade, because Foothill is amazing itself, but it's like Foothill. They offer the exact same resources. And I was actually surprised that Santa Clara was able to keep up, because at Foothill, you have a lot of resources available and a lot of opportunities, especially with the Science Learning Institute. And I found a similarity with the lead scholar program here at Santa Clara, which is a first gen program. And again, they do a lot of things that are very similar to what SLI does. For example, they have a lot of seminars where people come in and speak. They have workshops for students. So it was very similar, and it felt like I honestly didn't transfer schools. The culture here is amazing, and again, the resources here are endless. For example, I was talking to Glaciel earlier about the new building, and it's really nice because I can just come in and like use a room that's empty and I don't have to like weigh it. The class sizes are very small too. It's again very similar like Foothill. My biggest class size this quarter is probably like 30 students. So I can get all my questions answered. I could go to office hours without having to worry, about a long line or if I can even get my questions answered. But other than that, I'd say the only downside to Santa Clara might be, I don't know, maybe the food. But that says a lot. My only
That's not that
problem
bad.
is food, yeah.
Cool, thanks, Juan. Anybody else want to answer this question before we move on to the next one? Yeah, Tanaz? And you can reiterate where you go and what your major is too for folks who just came in.
Yeah, so I transferred to UC Berkeley this year, and I have a lot, like the likes I really like and the dislikes I really dislike. But I'll start with my dislikes. The classes are definitely huge. It was definitely like really weird for me to like go to my anatomy class and there's like 300 other people in there. So I feel like that was like a huge shock for me. So it's definitely harder to build personal relationships with your professors and even other classmates, especially if you don't go to office hours. But at the same time, like no one really goes to office hours. So if you actually do show up, that is kind of the time where you're able to build those personal relationships with your professors. I will say that there are also a lot, this is kind of like, I can't tell if this is a good or bad thing, but there are a lot of research opportunities, but the projects that you might actually want to do, everyone else wants to do. So it's definitely really competitive to actually get a spot in a project that you're interested in. But there's always something that you can kind of jump in on. Some likes that I do have about Berkeley is that the canvases are so well structured that you can go through your courses pretty much like just fine and not ever really need anything from your professors or TAs. And then also what was interesting for me is that the TAs grade everything. So because they're students, they tend to be really understanding. So I would say for the most part, all the TAs I've had have been really accommodating. So yeah, that's my experience.
Cool. And Tanaz, can you just say what a TA is in case people don't know what that is?
Oh yeah, so it's just like a teacher's assistant or like the professor's assistant, and they're usually grad students. I'm pretty sure they're usually grad students. So yeah, and they like took the course themselves not too long ago.
Cool.
I want to add on.
Yeah, go
At
ahead, Juan.
Santa Clara, we don't have TAs. It's just the professor. I'm not sure if it's, consistent with every private university, but here it's just the professor, no TAs.
My understanding is definitely privates because they're smaller often. They don't, and they might not have a graduate school attached to it, which Santa Clara doesn't, right?
Only for law.
Okay, that
Yeah.
often, yeah, in a private school, you're not going to get TAs. You get the professor for direct contact and stuff. So that's one of the pros and cons, depending on, what you're looking at, privates versus publics. Why don't we go on to the next the question? Because Tanaz, you kind of started to take us there, which was great. what was the biggest culture shock you experienced when you got to your transfer school, like coming from Foothill to wherever you are now? So maybe we can hear from a couple people that haven't spoken yet. Daisy, Jaden, or Lonnie first. Yeah, Lonnie?
I think the biggest culture shock was in leaving Foothill. I had finally started to feel like I knew my way around the school and how to access all the resources. And I'd also built like a pretty good community. And so I assumed that, oh, like I have all this knowledge of how to navigate like institutions. And then when I went to a UC, it was just completely different. And I felt like I was a first year all over again. And it's kind of the same where I'm finally feeling like I'm able to navigate it well, but I'm about to leave. So
Great, thanks, Lonnie. Go ahead, Daisy.
I agree with Lonnie. For me, I'm still kind of in this love-hate relationship with SGSU. I don't know, I just feel like I haven't found like my community yet. I know I have like the support from like advisors, especially my EOP advisor. We're so close, like I love him. But I think like just the very first day, like walking on campus, I was shocked because of how many students there were. And like kind of based off like the TA and PA like professor's assistants, I really loved that, especially for my chemistry class, because she was always willing to like support us. And I know they have like the tutoring center here, which kind of shocked me because it's kind of like off campus, you know, it's kind of like not really attached to the campus, I guess. But I guess a culture shock for me would just be like the amount of people there was on campus. Like I said, I'm still with this love-hate relationship, so I'm still kind of figuring out like what kind of resources I should fully take advantage of. You know, like the clubs. I did take advantage of the pre-med club. So now for the upcoming school year, I'm gonna be a mentor for students who are interested in pre-med. And then just like EOP, I've been going to a lot of in-person events and stuff like that. But yeah, just the amount of people and like how many resources are actually available to me.
Daisy, can you just compare EOP there to EOPS here? Are they like very similar, do you know, or are they pretty different?
It's the same thing. They just don't have the S at the end. Yeah.
Okay, but same resources.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jaden, do you want to comment on any culture shock you experienced?
Oh, yeah, as someone who chose on-campus housing, it's definitely a different, like, whole feeling to it all. Just matching up your schedule and just coming back home onto campus rather than coming back home usual because I live out here in Santa Cruz and back home would be Sunnyvale, so it was either I constantly transit over here or I just stay in. So it's just been kind of just the overall exploring campus, kind of trying to be more active in on-campus events, communities, clubs, also participating in class. And it's even living on campus, it's still hard to balance out work life, just how much time you should be focusing on your studies and how much time should you be socializing because college is one of the final avenues where you really get to explore socializing, building networkings before you're off into the job market, trying to either focus on what you've applied with your degree or just taking entry-level jobs to gain experience so you can move on to your dream job. And so I definitely say I'm just trying to make the most of it, trying to learn just as much as I did back in Foothill.
Thanks, Jaden. Anyone else want to comment on that? Like the culture shock, if you experienced any when you started?
I can speak a little about
Go ahead.
that. Again, I'm at Santa Clara University, and it's seen as a predominantly white school, and that wasn't shocking at all. I was actually shocked that it doesn't seem like that being here. For example, again, the lead program, the first gen program, sets up incoming students. It prepares incoming students so that everything you see every day is culture. So before starting the school year, they brought everyone out here for a whole week. So I technically moved in a whole week before everyone else, and it was just the incoming lead program students. And so immediately they immerse you in just culture, everyone that is full of culture. And so because of that, everywhere I go, I see people that are lead, and it's, again, it's culture that every corner I turn to is people that I see that are, have similar backgrounds to me, underrepresented, low income, whatever it is. But that was the biggest shock for me because, coming out of high school and even at Foothill, I thought Santa Clara was gonna be super crazy in demographics, and I'd be like the only student, of my background in my classes, but that was not the case, and that's what surprised me the most.
That's good to hear, because yeah, I definitely have heard that about Santa Clara too, that it's predominantly white. But that's great that they make an effort. Why don't we move on, unless anybody wants to say anything else? Okay, so the next question is about resources. I know a lot of you have talked about that. So if you could talk about what are some of the most useful resources you found at your university? And especially and not especially, but also making note of any that are for first generation low income students, students of color, that kind of thing, just so students get to know what are all the various resources you can have at a university. So anybody want to start with that? Go ahead, Daisy.
Like I mentioned, I applied to EOP and I had not been part of that here at Foothill, so it was kind of a hit or miss, like I just applied to see if I would get in. But I know we have like the Chicano um organization here on campus that I've also taken advantage of. I've been to like in-person events. Like I know this semester I went to the Pozole night. It was just like a study like thing. They just gave food out. People would bring their headphones. They had music. It was like just an event for like 3 hours to come and socialize or study for finals. Um, and then I would just honestly follow random accounts on Instagram only because like they seemed interesting. I know it was part of like the I forgot the name, but basically we have like a club on campus where they teach you like nutrition like based like highly nutritional foods or whatever, and it's kind of like a club, and like they have sessions on like Tuesdays and Wednesdays, for example, and they teach you like affordable foods you can make at home, even if you're living in the dorms. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It was so random, but it was really fun to just go with my friend and like be able to do like, I don't know, like pot stickers or whatever. Like it was just so random, but that's what I did. I just followed random accounts on Instagram. I know for like the tabling stuff, we have like the first few weeks of the semester, and like every resource on campus comes and like does the tabling and stuff. I did take advantage of that more fall semester only because it was so new to me. They call it the weeks of wow. And so it's just going up to them and asking what they have to offer. And if it's interesting to me, I would take it. And even if it doesn't like apply to my major, I would still kind of get information on it just to do like something extra, like something on the side. But for sure, EOP is a good resource that I would recommend.
Great. I appreciate your saying like test out the random stuff, because that's definitely what I think of for college is you want to test out all those random things. Who else wants to talk about resources at your, go ahead, Jaden.
Yeah, so m- kind of much like Daisy, I joined EOP over here. But there also is MESA available, and so I've taken up their MESA here is a little bit different. It's essentially like a study room, and they send out emails of available events. Uh, but alongside beyond EOP and MESA, there's also multiple different kinds of resources available to different ethnic groups. One I joined was SHIP, which allowed me to go to over to a SHIP national conference. This is for allowing Latinos into getting internship opportunities and meeting with companies to get your name out.
Jaden, do you want to say what SHIP stands for? Do you know? think it's-
I keep
Okay, it's a Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, I think, or something like that.
yes, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. And so that's available here alongside before my quarter even started, I joined I wanted to prepare myself to see how my programming skills were going to be going into UC. So I joined a little transfer program called UC Program Transfer. And essentially you get to come to UC Santa Cruz a bit early, but you join up with a bunch of other transfer students and you essentially retaught some elements and basically warm up coding projects with members undergraduates and graduates of UC Santa Cruz. And so there's a lot of different resources here on campus. If you're ever feeling uncomfortable or if you ever feel like you need assistance kind of settling into your studies or your classes, if there's any trouble, there's plenty of resources here at UC Santa Cruz on offer.
Jaden, I was just curious, how did you hear about those various resources? Did you get them through email or did you see them on Instagram like Daisy? How did you find these?
I got I got them through email alongside joining some career fairs, some basically and club fairs that basically got me all this information.
Great. So like those tabling events like Daisy talked about, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And I'm hearing there's mention of like these summer programs, which are good to come a little bit early. So looking out for those can be helpful. What about some other people? What resources have you taken advantage of? Go ahead, Tanaz.
Yeah, so at Berkeley, this was really clutch for me. The Berkeley Basic Needs Center has helped me so much just with like housing. They have like their own, I don't know, they have like a portal or something where like actually that's how I found my off-campus apartment. They also help with your CalFresh application for EBT. And also they, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if they offer this to everyone, but like my roommate and I applied to get our security deposit covered and they gave that money to us, which was insanely helpful. It was a lot of money. And they just gave it to us. We don't have to like return it. So yeah, that was definitely really nice.
Tanaz, how did you hear about those opportunities?
Honestly, through just clicking around on the Berkeley website. No one told me about it, but yeah, that's how I found it.
Okay, cool. We'll wait for questions, but hold your questions. Okay, can we just finish up answering these questions? Okay. What about some other people in terms of resources that you have found at your school? Go ahead, Glycel.
We at Davis there is a transfer Aggie group where as a transfer you're basically a part of this group. You don't have to sign up. You're like once you're a student at UC Davis, you're a part of this group, and you get emails from the Aggie Center or the Transfer Center, and it's kind of similar to what ELP does. We also have ELP, but in case you didn't get accepted to ELP, there's the Transfer Center for all transfer with all different backgrounds, and they provide the same kind of resources where if you need any like notebooks or school supplies, they'll be able to give that to you. They also host like workshops with different backgrounds. So if you're looking into health, they have a lot of like resume or how to become a perfect candidate. So if you're exploring or want to know how you can improve your application to pre-med, that is something you can go into. But it's a really well-rounded opportunity because they send you all these emails. They kind of just bombard you every week. There's always something new going on, and it's free to come. You stop by. Sometimes they even encourage you by having free food or free breakfast. They'll have one out. But yeah, they provide a lot of resources. They also help you with applications regarding financial aid, as well as other resources from the government, so like CalFresh. I know it was mentioned previously. So if you need help getting that or any translator, you might need, they can provide you with that assistance as well.
I'm catching a common theme of like finding stuff on email. So I know sometimes like, email can be hard for people. So just keeping aware, like a lot of you finding about resources through email? So if you're not staying up with your email, you're gonna miss those opportunities. So just remembering that. Anyone else have anything to add in terms of resources? Okay. Do people have questions yet in the audience? I know Braylon had a question, because I have some more questions, but if people have questions yet, we can start to ask. Okay, so Braylon had a couple questions. This is related to Berkeley, Tanaz. What are some housing resources that students should be aware of? Also, where do most transfers end up? Do you mean like major or? Oh, housing, yeah. And are there pros and cons to roommates? Actually, the housing question, I think in general is good. So maybe Tanaz, if you could start housing options, pros and cons of roommates, where do transfers go? And then would love to expand that to others at other universities where you're residential. So Tanaz?
Yeah, so the thing with housing, okay, now that I've done, like I took the off-campus route, there is a new transfer building, but I wouldn't bank on getting into that because everyone wants to get into that. I definitely think that off campus in the either definitely not downtown, but in like the South Berkeley region is probably the best place to find an apartment. I do think on-campus housing is best for your first year as a transfer. They do like there's pretty much guaranteed housing. But if you decide, well, I don't know like what your income is, but if you're in that lower income region and you do get financial aid, if you decide to go off campus, they're going to decrease your financial aid. So that's also something to consider. Now that I've done the off-campus thing, if I could go back, I think I would do on-campus housing just for that reason. But yeah, I'm not sure if I answered that question. Oh, in terms of the website, definitely through the Basic Needs Center, they can help you. Like I forgot what the name of the portal is, but there's a portal that you can find off-campus housing there.
And can you comment on the roommate, no roommate pros?
Yeah, definitely have a roommate. I have my own bedroom, but it's really expensive. Like I think right now, just to kind of like throw numbers out there, for me right now in South Berkeley in a 2-bedroom where I have my own room, it's about $1,400, which is a lot, you know. Obviously my financial aid covers like a good chunk of it, but not all. But yeah, I would definitely say get a roommate.
For like applying for housing, is it like a raffle or is it
A lottery?
based on-
Yeah.
So you like through the Berkeley portal, you list like they try to match you with your preferences in terms of like how many people and like what kind of like bedroom or whatever. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but they try to match you, but like, you know, you're probably not going to get your first pick.
We can definitely share people's information afterwards. What about other people's experience with housing for those of you who are residential? Lonnie and then Glycel.
Yeah, so I was on campus housing my first year at UC Santa Cruz. And so when you are a transfer, you're put into the transfer community. So your entire building and like all your roommates are transfers. And then they transitioned from having like a priority system for EOP to now solely lottery based. And I know a lot of people struggle to get housing if they do not have a housing group. So I was off campus housing this year and I found that through Craigslist, but there's also a lot of like Facebook groups specifically for that.
And so do you just have to dig around on Facebook and Craigslist to find housing?
Yeah,
Is Santa Cruz really competitive, would you say? Like hard to find?
it is very competitive. I think I pay about $1,500 for my own bedroom and bathroom off campus.
Cool. What about other people? Yeah, Jaden, another Santa Cruz.
Yeah, as explained by Lonnie, as a transfer student, you are assigned to the transfer community building, so that could be porter. I was assigned porter. And it's also various. You could all before you join housing, you put in your preferences if you want just yourself or if you can handle having roommates. I was put in with a room with two other roommates, and it's kind of scary. It's a different experience when you're living with total strangers. But so far, me and my roommates have quite bonded. We've become great friends, and we also talked about for the housing process when it came up that we put in a request for all three of us to stay, but to move into a different building. But as Lonnie explained, housing is very competitive, especially with how they're from with how it's kind of being reduced at the moment, housing availability. So they only did one pass for housing, and we didn't get in, so we're still stuck in our original building. But and quality can depend with what building you're placed in. It's decent where we live, and also going back to personal reasons, I chose housing because it simply was kind of more the convenient option if I wanted to get to my classes. And yeah, so far you have eventually you have to make the decision yourself if you want to take on-campus housing or live somewhere nearby.
Great, Jaden, thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, Glycel?
So, for Davis, you have a lot of options. I'm currently on campus, technically on campus. I live in their on-campus apartments. And there are options for either living in dorm or on-campus apartments. And there are 3 types of apartments. Majority of transfers goes to excuse me, sorry, to the transfer apartments. They have a name for it. It's called the green. Majority of transfers always goes to this apartment. And so if you want to find fellow transfers, I would recommend living, and that's currently where I am. I will say is that you are guaranteed housing. So when you apply, as long as you meet the deadlines that they tell you to and following through with everything else, you are guaranteed the housing. You have basically a first come, first served basis compared to all the other students who has been here since their first year or non-transfers. They don't get to have any priorities so for them, for non-transfers, they don't have priority selection. So that's the great thing about housing at Davis. Kind of like what others have said, housing is in terms of financial aid, it is dependent on your financial aid. After financial aid covers everything on my cost, I would have to pay around out of total 1,300 every quarter. Housing is billed all together with tuition and other costs. So after that, you won't have to pay for it monthly. You just pay for it the next quarter. There is also parking lots. So if you do plan to bring your cars or work outside of the vicinity, you're able to bring your car. That's where the lottery system for parking lots comes around because Davis is very strict about cars. They like to promote as much as possible either biking, scootering, or walking. There's also a bus route system, so you can also take the bus route. It's free for all students, just have your ID card. So that's also a great benefit of living at the on-campus apartments. I will say one also, if you do choose, I don't know if this is the same for other schools, but in Davis, if you choose to become an RA, and this is for dorms as well and all the other living opportunities that you're able to choose from. If you choose to become an RA, they cover your housing and they cover your meal plan. So that's the benefit of becoming an RA that I would like to put out there as a resource. So in case you want to still live at a campus apartment, you're able to apply to become an RA and have all those costs covered for you. It is very competitive, and so just keep that in mind. But besides that, I will
Just really
say,
quick, just in case people don't know what an RA is, it's called a resident assistant or resident, right?
yeah,
You live in a dorm on a floor with more likely underclassmen, and you're kind of like I mean, chaperone maybe, like you're kind of
Yeah,
like the hall monitor for that.
exactly.
So
And
you
so
have to
if
like
there's,
help deal with issues, but you do get it all paid for as a.
yeah, they pay for your housing and your meal plan. So all those are covered. They just require you to be at the apartments in
Cleaning up
case someone
after
gets lockouts.
people and stuff like that.
Yeah, like
After
lockouts that
parties.
happens. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, in terms of outside housing, there's a lot of Facebook groups. And also roommates. I haven't gotten to roommates, but roommates is pretty easy to find. I found my roommate on Instagram. Someone made like an Instagram for our Pacific transfer group, but you can also find off-campus roommates on Facebook groups by just searching your school and then housing. And there's usually some, or if not one, that pops up.
Great, thanks, Lysel. Let's start to wrap up, and I know Juan has to go. So maybe just last comment from everybody is, and then we can see if there's more questions. Maybe like advice you'd give to, we've got students here who are gonna apply for transfer this coming fall or the following fall. Anything like you wish they would do or know what to do better to prepare?
I can start off.
Go ahead, Juan, yeah.
One thing I regretted the most over my years before transferring is not giving myself a chance. And I didn't really understand what that meant until my last year at Foothill, especially when it came to applying to colleges. Like I mentioned before, I just put my name into the pool for Santa Clara University, and I ended up getting, a really good scholarship and continuous opportunities that are provided to me. And it was by chance, that happened, and it was only because I gave myself a chance. So one thing I recommend is that, no matter where you're at, always give yourself a chance. Don't limit yourself to, what you have available to you. Because, if you apply yourself to these things and opportunities, it's gonna come in return, and you're gonna do great things.
Thanks, Juan. Appreciate your being here. See you later.
Yeah, of course. You guys have a good one.
Bye. Let's hear from others. Like, what is advice you would give to your former self? Either like, you should definitely do this, keep doing what you did, or like, oh, I regret this. I wish it could be different. So go ahead, Jaden.
Yeah, I know a lot of you have been working through it, learning much more about imposter syndrome because I I took MESA, I took EOPS back with Foothill. I've learned a lot, and let me tell you, that feeling, it's gonna come up multiple times coming here, university, especially entering in. You don't know how prepared you feel like you are. You don't know what it's going to be like. This is a new area, new setting. I get that. It's, let me tell you, it ain't scary. It ain't scary at all. Sure, it's a different environment. Sure, it's a different scheduling opportunity, but overall, I couldn't really be happier because you really get to learn how to work and meet with your professor, how to work alongside and talk to your peers, both talking about how to complete a project or just talking to bond or talking about interests. You get there's a lot of opportunities to build your own schedule around the time you want, so you can explore what's on campus or explore any research or job opportunities. On campus, this is really the time to build your time, your schedule, and really make the most to start networking, to get your name out there, and to get to learn. So don't come in with fear, just come in with a drive for curiosity and looking to see how you can improve yourself.
Great. Thank you so much, Jaden. Who'd like to go next? Daisy?
Something that I wish I had told myself sooner was to just keep challenging myself. I know like fall semester at SGSU, like there was an event at our bowling alley and I was not going to go because I had class from 9 to 5 and the event was like at 6. So I was just like so tired. I wasn't feeling it anymore, but I challenged myself to go. It was just like a hangout kind of thing. And so I was like willing to like meet new people and everything, but the event didn't go how I wanted it to go. Like everyone already knew each other. and like I just felt kind of like isolated, you know. But even then, I was like glad that I took that challenge, because now in like future events, I know like what kind of how I can like mentally prepare myself in a way, you know, like whether it's an event like that or a more like professional setting, I know that it has a lot to do with like the way I prepare myself, you know. And it helps me in like other areas of my life as well. Like last semester, this semester, there was like lab partners that I didn't like connect with. And so I challenged myself also in the sense of like speaking up when I knew something was wrong. And that's what I did, whether it was with them or like with the professor as well. And so challenging myself to do the uncomfortable is something that I continue to do in my undergrad studies. And so I would that would be my advice, to challenge yourself and like find people who will support you throughout your journey.
That's great. Thanks, Daisy. Would like to go next. Lonnie?
Yeah, definitely. Building on what Daisy said, I think this year I definitely challenged myself more to get involved in more clubs on campus, and events. And so I think coming in, like getting really involved in community spaces like MESA, clubs like SHIP or NESB, and also just fun clubs. Like I love folklorico, so I'm part of the Los Mexicas club. Um, and then sticking with it, even if it's like uncomfortable, just continue to find those spaces, because through that you're gonna find support through your peers and also mentorship, which is really helpful.
Thanks, Lonnie. Lysel or Tanaz?
I'll go. I will say like yeah, kind of like falling down everybody's line. Like I would say before your transfer, I think um apply to as much as opportunities as you can while you're still at Foothill, because the bigger the school that you want to go into, like Berkeley or Santa Cruz, it gets even tougher to get such opportunities. And so having something like working with SLI, for example, and being a part of that has a great start for you to be competitive to other students, and it shows that you have transferable skills and makes the process easier for you to get opportunities when you do transfer. And so being open-minded, so if you see an email and think, oh, I don't think I'll be able to be applicable, apply anyways. I know that it has a lot of opportunities and applying does not hurt. And so the more you get out there, you know, it gets easier when you do end up transferring to a bigger school.
That's great. Y'all are giving such great advice. Tanaz, what about you?
I think the best advice I can give is to definitely start off strong your first quarter or semester. I think a lot of advisors or people that I've talked to say that, oh, you know, when you transfer, you should, you know, start off light, start off your low light. But even for myself, I decided to go pretty heavy my first semester. I ended up doing anatomy and genetics at the same time, which is a lot. But now that it's done and looking back, I'm so happy I did that, because well, depending on if you want to go to grad school or not, just like it just kind of jumping in allows you to, I don't know, it just, everyone's different. Me personally, being forced to acclimate worked better for me. It just allowed me to like transition much faster and just finding the groove of like studying and just stuff like that. So I mean, it may not work for everyone, but I would say to start off strong your first term.
That's great. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody write down any questions that you haven't had answered? Braylon, go ahead.
This is directed at Tanaz again, for Berkeley, and also for everyone, like for scholarships, and financial assistance. Is there like a certain portal or like a certain set of scholarships that you should look out for?
That was actually one of my questions too. So yeah, like the financial advice that anybody has. So Tanaz, I don't know if you could go first and then we can hear from others.
Yeah, so I didn't apply to any external scholarships, but Berkeley themselves, like, kind of, well, I mean, I feel like it's the packages are so different for everyone, but for me personally, what FAFSA didn't give me, Berkeley filled it in. So I don't know. I don't hear too much about people applying for like scholarships in the same way that Foothill has it. Like it's not the same, but I do think that they're a lot more generous with financial aid.
It's interesting. Yeah. What about other people in terms of both the financial aid side and scholarship side? Yeah, Lonnie?
Yeah, so I applied to scholarships at Foothill and then also through Silicon Valley Community Foundation, which is like a pool of a bunch of different scholarships. And so I got the Latinos in Tech scholarship, which is amazing. I'm a returning scholar this year as well. But I would really recommend looking to external scholarships because for UC Santa Cruz, the amount of scholarships are very few and far between and not that much.
Yeah, it kind of goes to like what Glycel said, apply to a bunch of things while you're still here because you're more competitive. I mean, it's less competitive than once you go to Ray transfer. What other financial aid advice or resources that people took advantage of? Okay. Any other questions?
I could
Go ahead,
I could
Daniel. Yeah.
talk a bit about
for it.
so I found ways to make money through different avenues, not just scholarships, but also programs like if anyone's heard of the McNair Scholars Program, they offer it's a graduate school preparation program. I think it's offered at a wide range of different universities, but they give you a one-time stipend to fund your research, and it's a really good program to get you prepared for what a PhD or graduate school is like. So I looked for programs that offered either a one-time stipend or a monthly stipend in regards to research, so that way I could get paid while doing research. And then on top of that, I did external scholarships, which as Lonnie mentioned, I got the Latinos in Tech one as well, which also offered different resources other than just the money they gave. They did a lot of industry visits. They did a lot of they had specific internship opportunities offered only for Litzy scholars. So just really looking at what other how to take advantage of different programs. And then at SJSU, the College of Engineering has a similar scholarship applications similar to Foothill. So I applied to about 30 or 40 different scholarships that I was eligible for at within the College of Engineering, and it helped a lot because the tuition at SJSU is really cheap compared to other universities. So you can really stack up a lot of scholarships at SJSU and exceed what the tuition cost is and really start to save money in that way. I was able to quit my full-time job and just live off scholarship money because of that. And I guess for those who are at Foothill, I would, like Sophia mentioned, I would fully take advantage of the scholarships they offer there because I didn't know anything about that when I was there. And if I did, I definitely would have taken full advantage. And also too, I don't know if some of you are taking classes at De Anza as well, and that could just double your chances of getting other scholarships. So I wouldn't miss those opportunities because even if you are paying for tuition at Foothill or De Anza, it's nothing compared to what you're going to be paying at a four-year university. So you can really get ahead, get a head start if you start to really apply when you're at Foothill and De Anza.
Any other questions? So maybe just to wrap up, y'all can share a little bit, like, what's your next step? So I know some of you are graduating, finishing, some of you are gonna be back for another year. So we can just go around and hear. And Daniel, you can maybe start. What's your next step from here?
Yeah, so this past year I've been working part-time with you, Sophia, and the MESA program on campus, and I'm planning to do that the following school year. And then I'm also starting a full-time lab manager position at Stanford in one of the labs that I was a part of two labs over the past 3 years at Stanford, and one of them was looking for a lab manager, so they hired me on to take on that full-time position.
And are you gonna be applying for grad school? Is that also part of your plan?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be, so Marissa told me to apply this next cycle again. I was gonna wait till the 2026 fall, but honestly, I think I'm gonna reapply again this fall and see what happens. I was able to actually add a lot to my resume this past year. My senior project at SJSU, we're publishing, and they mentioned to me just a couple weeks ago that they're gonna have me be the first author for that paper. So I think I have a lot of things that I was able to add on. I was even though so I did apply this past PhD cycle. I didn't get into any PhD programs, but I was selected as a finalist for a pretty prestigious fellowship, and I also got honorable mention for the NSF GRFP. So if anyone is ever interested in graduate school and applying for these type of things, I just think this past cycle was a really bad cycle to apply due to like all the administrative federal funding freezing and everything. But yeah, that's kind of what my goals are right now. Working full-time as a lab manager position, getting into research again, and then also preparing to apply for the next PhD cycle.
Right. Lonnie, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm gonna be graduating this June, and then I will be headed to Oregon to do my PhD in robotics at Oregon State.
That's awesome. Tanaz, are you graduating this year, or you still have another? You still have another year, right? So do you want to go next?
Yeah, so I have one more year. I'm currently studying for my dental exams called the DAT, kind of similar to the MCAT. And then I'm going to be applying this cycle. So once I finish the exam, I'll submit my application end of July. And then I'll hear back throughout the rest of next school year. And then this time next year, I'll know where I'm going, and then I'll start immediately after I graduate.
Cool, thanks. Daisy, what about you? What's up for you next year?
So I do have one more year at SJSU, and then I'm gonna take a gap to study for the MCAT, and then hopefully the second or third cycle I would be starting at med school.
Cool. Jaden, what about you?
From the looks of my schedule, it looks like I'm going to be taking one more year. So alongside that, I'm going to be focusing on also getting jobs, on-campus jobs, so I could kind of fund a bit for my fund myself for the future, and looking to explore a bit more opportunities. I got sidelined with some busy classes to focus more on studying, but so I really want to take the time to start exploring more socializing events and alongside see what else my campus has to offer. So I'm going to be working more with EOP and MESA, and that's my objective.
Great. And Lysel, what's up for you next year?
I will be graduating in June of spring of next year. After that, I will be taking 2 gap years just to prepare. And I will be going back to Foothill to take any more classes that I still need to take for my graduate programs.
And you said you were wanting to do PA school, right? Is that physician assistant still?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, cool. So these are all alumni that you all have access to. If they're on any tracks or at any schools that you're interested in, please, we'll connect anybody. But thank you all so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate your time. And we'll let you go. But yeah, thank you all again.
Thank you for
Bye, everybody.
thank you for having us.
Yes,
It's kind of quite an experience being on the other end of this.
totally, totally. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.